Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Quick Tip Tuesdays. My name is Pam Anson. I'm the Community Outreach Coordinator here. And if you haven't joined us for Quick Tip Tuesdays before, basically we're going to talk about a tip that could help your business or be about your accreditation. And after, if you have any questions about the topic or any other questions about your accreditation, just type those in and I will do my best to answer those. Today we are going to talk about 5 steps to better business cybersecurity. Now this presentation comes from a longer presentation, and since it's Quick Tip Tuesdays, we're just going to do a short version today. So first we're going to talk about what is cybersecurity. And today businesses are more reliant on technology and the internet, and we want to be able to protect our business in case anything happens so that we can kind of have a plan. And I will say that I'm necessarily not an expert on this topic, but I just want you to start thinking about cybersecurity and how to better protect your business. So cybersecurity is the ability to protect or defend the use of cyberspace from a cyber attack. So especially in a small business, you really want to make sure that you can protect it from attacks and be able to quickly respond to these attacks so that you're not overwhelmed or that you can just quickly bounce back and not affect your business. So recently our National Council came up with this presentation, and they partnered with the National Cybersecurity Alliance. So they wanted to create a program for businesses that help manage and learn about these cyber attacks that could be affecting our work and our personal lives. And you know, it can be hard when these attacks happen and we don't know how to respond, so we want to kind of help make a plan that says, where do I start? So they came up with this thing called the 5 steps approach, where you start by identifying your assets, protecting your assets, detect incidences, respond with a plan, and recover for normal operations to your business. So the first step 1 is to identify. So if you get attacked with a cyber attack, the first step is to identify. And we'll go over an example after. So you want to take inventory of key technologies you use and know what information you need to rebuild your infrastructure from scratch. Inventory the key data you use and store and keep track of likely threats. Step 2 is to protect. So you want to assess what protective measures you need to have in place to be as prepared as possible for a cyber attack. You want to put protective policies in place for technologies, data, and users, and ensure that your contracts with cloud and other technology service providers include the same protection. Number 3 is detect. You want to put measures in place to alert you of current or imminent threats of system integrity or loss or compromise of data, and you want to make sure you train your users to identify and speedily report incidents. Step 4 is to respond. You want to make and practice an incident response plan to contain an attack or incident and maintain business operations in the short term. And step 5 is to recover. Know what to do to return to normal business operations after an incident, protect sensitive data and your business reputation over the long term. So let's take an example. So ransomware is definitely on the rise. So let's say that you get this message on your computer. And something like this pops off in saying that you need to pay money, or else you're going to lose all your data. So, for example, a business owner returns from lunch to find this message on his desktop screen. And like I said, this means that maybe your computer's taken over, you need to submit payments or you're going to lose your files, they say. So this isn't a cyber attack, and there are many different types of ransomware. This is just one of them. But like I said, they can encrypt your files on your hard drive, and you need to pay this ransom, and they'll provide you what's called a decryption key once you pay that to get you out of this screen. So let's assume that this computer is the owner of the business, and the owner uses the store computer, and the computer contains customer name, addresses, contact deals, business history he's had with customers, and he uses this information regularly to keep up with customers. So if you lose access to this data, you're going to lose access to information that's really important about your customers. It could have sensitive information about your customers that we don't, want to get out there, and that could really hurt your business. So what are the options for the business owner? Well, the business owner could pay the ransom, but just because you pay the ransom does not necessarily mean that the hackers are going to pay back or decrypt your files once you've paid them. Many times that these payments can be several $100s, maybe even a couple of $1,000s, and you could be out that money and not have your files. Maybe if he does get it decrypted, he's going to have trouble decrypting it or trouble restoring the data once he gets it back. We also have to consider, would a law enforcement want them to pay back this data? So there's lots of questions that might run through your head if something like this pops up. So what we would do in the situation of ransomware is if we put in the 5-step approach. So in this scenario, let's assume that the owner has already put a protection plan in place for this business system. So he backs up his files every night onto a separate hard drive. And he takes that hard drive home. He knows he can take his computer to a service at his local computer store and have them wipe the drive and restore the files. At the office, he quickly locates his most recent purchase order files to get the contact details he needs to let his most current customers know what's going on, and he asks their assistant to keep track of all new calls and appointments in a diary until he returns. Then he loads the computer into his car and heads to the computer store with his computer and his spare backup drive, and he pays an expedite fee to get the computer service to start working on his computer right away. They promise to deliver the computer with the restored data. So he's already come up with a plan of what to do. So he identified the problem. So he knows that, okay, this ransomware come up. It's targeting his office desktop computer. It contains information like his customer data with their addresses and other important phone numbers and information. He wants to protect. So what he does to protect is he daily backs up his computer on an external drive. And he detected the problem by having the ransom message come up, and he determined that the system will be down for several days. And then he responded to this problem by, we see the short-term response by keeping the business going by looking up old data, and they looked up old copies of maybe purchase orders, addresses, and phone numbers, and they're keeping a diary of what is going on. And then they recover. So they use the backup data, which is great to protect their data, so they can recover by using the protected data that they shared. You know, they're going to reload Windows, reload the customer application with their external hard drive, and then load data from the backup, and then put in the information that they took manually. So by using 5-steps approach, it hopefully made it more easy for them to, you know, assess complex information. So it's definitely overwhelming when you can be attacked by this, but if you can maybe put the threats before they happen, you can come up with a plan. So what are your likely targets at your business? How can you protect that data? What are you going to do once it happens? Do you have a place that you can go, or maybe an accredited business or a computer place that you know is trustworthy that you can go to if you ever have a problem, and what are you going to do? So like I said, I might not necessarily be an expert on, you know, technology and everything, but it's about coming up with a plan to help protect your business, especially if you're a small business. You know, you might not have all the resources you need to have an IT person on staff or hire an IT company, and you can take measures to better protect yourself. So there's a way we can create a culture of security with the human factor. So a good way that you can help protect your businesses against threat is by training your staff. You know, training that protects against phishing and data loss is huge. A huge reason we have cyber attacks is through phishing, and once that email goes through, it can work your way through the system. So training your staff not to click on links, being careful what they click on at work. You know, if they have a question about an email, have a person that they can go to and talk to. And then creating these policies and procedures, you know, having something that a staff can read over of what to do in case this happens, who to talk to. You want to make sure that you don't punish people for reporting these problems, because then they're not going to report them to you. You know, things like this do happen, and you just need to know how to deal with them, because if you punish them, then they're going to be afraid to talk to you, and you can have an even bigger security issue on your hands. So with these procedures, just remember to write everything down and remind people about this. Your employees can be the first people who detect these problems. We definitely get phishing emails in the office, and you know, we often report those to our managers and who needs to know about them. So they can definitely be the ones to figure it out first. And you just want to make sure that you deal with this in a timely fashion to work through your response. So, for example, you want to make sure that all device network users will read and sign a user agreement like we talked about. Training and awareness. You can have all staff participate in cybersecurity education programs. You know, we can definitely come out and talk to people in your office about scams, protecting against data. There are definitely other accredited businesses that do talk about cybersecurity. We have webinars to help prevent against ransomware and other cyber attacks. So definitely keeping your ear out that way. But having your staff participate is just a great knowledge to have to prevent, you know, phishing and other attacks and what to do in that situation. So you want to make sure that devices must be secured when leaving your desk or traveling. If you have someone who has a lot of important information on their computer, or if you have a shared drive at your work that everyone in the office can go into, maybe you want to make sure that access is limited of who is able to get to the shared drive. If someone has to go through a lot of emails or they have to open a lot of attachments, if it's a customer service person, maybe you want to make sure that that access is limited so it doesn't get into your whole system. Passwords, so you want to make sure passwords are changed often and authenticated, making sure that they're difficult to get into, they're complex, and that you change them. You also want to make sure all personnel data will be protected, and you want to make sure that personal or sensitive data in your worker's email is protected as well. So here's some security tips. You want to start with security. Just make sure that you have all your software up to date and your malware up to date. You want to make sure that you have a plan in place in case this happens. You want to control access to data sensibly, so maybe not everyone needs access. You want to require passwords, store sensitive information securely, and protect it during transmission. So keeping things off on a separate drive is a great idea. Keeping that away from your computer and away from your desk so that you have backup information. You want to segment your network and monitor who's trying to get in and out. Secure remote access to your network. You want to apply sound security practices when developing new products. You want to make sure your service providers implement responsible security measures. So make sure you know who you're getting your protection from, know who they are, and make sure they're trustworthy. You want to protect your procedures in place to keep your security current and address vulnerabilities that may arise. So keep using this 5-step approach and making sure you are thinking of what threats could be out there, and if something is compromised, how you could be able to protect that. You want to make sure you secure paper and physical media and devices. So there are lots of resources that can help you with your cybersecurity. This is just a very little piece of it. In the webinar, there's a handout section. If you look at in the webinar box that you're in right now, it'll say handouts, and in there's 2 handouts that you can download. The first one is a technology checklist, and it just gives you areas that you might want to identify and see, if you have enough protection there, what's going on. It gives you some tips, things about firewalls, routers, things like that. And then there's also another section which has the 5 steps approach on there and what you need to do. There's also some great resources online. You can check with the FTC. So you go to ftc.gov/data security. We have the BBB Resource Center. There's also a handout that the FTC offers about data security that you can order free copies from if you'd like to get free copies and give them to your employees just as a reminder. That would be a great thing. We also have the NCSA, which is stopthinkconnect.org. And then the resources. So our goals for this, as I said, is to help reduce your risk. Cyber attacks are going to happen, but if we take protective measures, we can help reduce that risk, and we can prevent cyber incidents. And if something does happen, the 5 steps approach really is hopefully going to help reduce the amount of exposed data and reduce the time of effort to return to normal. So as I said, as an overview, so we're going to identify the assets you need to protect assets and limit your impact, be able to detect security problems, be ready to respond if you have an incident, and prepare to recover from an incident. Is there any questions? I know this is a lot, and if you have any questions, please feel free to email me. My email is pam@cleveland.bbb.org. I can also send you the slides, or I can send you any of the handouts in the webinar today. So our next quick tip is going to be on November 1st at 9 a.m. If you have any questions, like I said, please feel free to email me or you can give me a call. You can call the accredited business hotline. That's 216-413-5232, and that number goes right to me. So thank you so much. I see you next time, and hopefully we will be talking about more about scams, which is pretty interesting. So thanks so much and have a great Tuesday.